The woman just wanted to squat down and relieve herself in the wilderness. But before she could even pull up her pants, an out-of-control pickup truck came barreling straight toward her. By the time the driver stepped out to check, she had already been sent straight to heaven. This unlucky woman was as dead as could be. Just as the driver was agonizing over whether to run, the woman's husband finished doing his business nearby and walked up. Nick tried to explain the terrible accident, but the husband panicked, tripped, and tumbled down a dirt slope, letting out a painful groan. When Nick rushed over to check on him, the scene left him dumbfounded once again. The poor man had fallen onto a sharp, broken tree trunk, which pierced straight through his chest, killing him on the spot. Nick's head was spinning. He hadn't intended to do anything wrong, yet out of nowhere, he had 2 dead bodies on his hands. Looking around and seeing no one else, with no security cameras in sight, the thought of a hit and run instantly crossed his mind. He hit the gas and fled the scene. Back home, he was terrified to tell his wife. But his petrified look and the fresh cuts on his face gave him away. Seeing that he couldn't hide it, Nick came clean and confessed how he accidentally killed a married couple. On his drive home, a black animal had suddenly darted into the middle of the road. He swerved on instinct, but the icy, snow-covered road was slick, sending the truck into a wild spin that plowed right into the woman squatting by the roadside. Hearing the whole story, his wife Anna did not panic. She asked why he didn't just call the police since it was an accident. Nick replied that his truck had no insurance. If the police found out, selling everything he owned wouldn't even cover the damages. Since there were no witnesses or cameras, as long as they kept quiet, nobody would ever trace it back to him. When Anna realized Nick had left fingerprints at the scene, the two rushed back immediately to wipe them clean. Seeing the dead woman lying there in such a mess, Anna kindly pulled up the woman's pants. Meanwhile, as Nick wiped away his prints, he spotted an expensive handbag inside the couple's car. Realizing the owners were wealthy, Anna popped the trunk to check for valuables. To her shock, she found a leather bag packed to the brim with stacks of euro notes. Greed took over instantly. She told Nick they had to hide the bodies. Since the owners were dead, as long as the corpses disappeared, the money was entirely theirs. Nick agreed and ran over to retrieve the husband's body. But he hit a wall. The body was impaled deep onto the trunk, and his old bones couldn't pull it free. Anna was no pushover. She grabbed a chainsaw from their truck and sliced right through the log. Before long, they packed up the dead couple, loaded them in, and hauled them home. The moment they got inside, Anna eagerly began counting the cash. It totaled a whopping 2 million euros. Just then, Nick terrified himself by finding a handgun inside the bag. Having never held a real gun, he fiddled with it, and it accidentally went off. The loud bang stunned Anna, who thought for a second her husband was trying to take all the money for himself. Nick quickly stammered that it misfired. The bullet blew a hole straight through their wall. Before they could catch their breath, a knock sounded at the front door. In a panic, Anna stuffed the cash out of sight and went to answer the door to avoid suspicion, leaving Nick to deal with the mess. To Anna's surprise, it was the town sheriff. Luckily, he wasn't there to arrest them. He had just come to pick up a Christmas tree he had ordered from them a few days earlier. As the sheriff stepped inside, a guilty Nick leaned against the wall, covering the fresh bullet hole with his body. Seeing Nick standing frozen against the wall made the sheriff a bit suspicious. Nick had to lie, claiming his back was sore from driving all day and he just needed to stand upright to stretch. Because they were old pals, the sheriff didn't doubt him. Just as the sheriff picked up the tree to leave, Nick noticed with horror that one of the dead body's feet was sticking out. He quickly shifted his body to block the sheriff's view. Thanks to the dim lighting and the sheriff's aging eyesight, nothing was noticed. After sending the sheriff off, the couple let out a huge sigh of relief. To get rid of the evidence fast, they hopped online to search for ways to destroy human remains. The internet gave them options. First, feed them to pigs, as pigs eat anything, though they eat rather slowly. The second method was dissolving them in strong acid, but that was too complicated and dangerous. While Nick was out of ideas, Anna remembered that black bears roamed the nearby mountains. A plan formed in their minds. Early the next morning, they hauled the two bodies upriver where bears frequently appeared, intending to make the bears take the blame. To attract the bears quickly, they even smeared honey all over the corpses. They thought the plan was foolproof. But when they returned the next day to check, the sight froze them in place. Not only were the original two bodies untouched, but a third corpse had mysteriously appeared right beside them. The couple felt like lightning had struck them. The area was completely empty yesterday. Where did this third dead body come from? Did someone find out about their scheme and set them up? Either way, getting rid of the bodies was urgent. Anna came up with another plan: haul all the bodies back to the original crash site. That way, the police wouldn't launch a manhunt for missing people. And because the causes of death among the three were so messy and conflicting, investigators would be utterly baffled. Soon enough, a passerby spotted the three bizarrely dead bodies inside the car and dialed the police. The sheriff arrived at the scene with his team right away. Strangely, Nick and Anna drove back to the scene too, not to turn themselves in, but to snoop on the investigation. Seeing a crowd gathered, the couple secretly cheered inside. When told that 3 people had died, the two immediately put on shocked, terrified faces. Asked why they were there, Anna lied and said they were just driving to the supermarket on the other side of the mountain and happened to pass by. The officers suspected nothing, and the couple slipped away cleanly. To keep up the act, they actually went to the supermarket and spent a small fortune on a 50-inch big-screen TV. Then they went to an adult bar and bribed the owner with a heavy stack of cash to give them a fake alibi, telling him to say they were drinking at the bar all night if the police asked. With enough money involved, the owner happily agreed. They thought they were completely safe, but they severely underestimated police efficiency. Within hours, the police identified the dead trio as wanted drug traffickers. Reviewing road cameras and the surrounding terrain, investigators pinpointed Nick and Anna as the prime suspects, since no other residents lived along that stretch of road. The sheriff and his deputy headed straight to Nick's house. Walking inside, the sheriff saw Nick standing against the wall once again. This time, Nick held a hammer, and an oil painting was hanging on the wall, clearly just put up to hide the bullet hole. The sheriff didn't overthink it and asked them directly what they were doing the night of the crime. Prepared, the couple claimed they spent the whole night partying at the bar and bought a giant TV at the store the next day. With convincing acting, they seemed to pass the test. Just as the sheriff was turning to leave, the deputy spoke up, revealing that they were lying. The deputy himself had been at that very bar all night and never saw either of them. Knowing his old friend was behind the crime, the sheriff arranged a private meeting with Nick the following day. He bluntly called out their lie and urged Nick to surrender, promising he would do his best to get them a lighter sentence. He warned Nick that the Major Crimes Unit had taken over the case and would turn everything upside down, and with so many holes in their story, they were bound to rot in prison. Cornered, Nick spilled the whole truth and even told the sheriff about the 2 million euros. Hearing about the money, the sheriff's eyes lit up. He confidently told Nick that he would take care of everything from now on, as long as the couple kept their mouths shut. The sheriff took the bag of cash and walked off, clearly intending to pocket the money for himself. Little did he know, a hitman was watching him from the shadows, sent by the drug cartel boss to retrieve the lost 2 million euros. As the sheriff was about to lock the cash into his safe, the hitman crept up behind him. A gunshot rang out, but it was the hitman who dropped dead. The deputy had arrived just in time and fired, saving the sheriff's life. The sheriff was shocked to find that a supposedly assigned member of the Major Crimes team was trying to kill him. Checking the dead man's badge, he discovered the ID was a total fake. The sheriff realized this was a hitman sent by the cartel boss, but he kept quiet about it. The sheriff assumed he could now pocket the fortune without a hitch. Meanwhile, the cartel boss himself showed up at Nick and Anna's house. Because all his hitmen had vanished, the boss came in person, threatening to kill them both if they didn't hand over the 2 million euros immediately. Facing such a ruthless mob boss, the couple wet their pants in fear. But since the cash was already given to the sheriff, they were helpless. Seeing them refuse to talk, the boss grew furious. To save her husband's life, Anna blurted out that the 2 million euros was buried in their backyard. The boss took the bait and followed Anna out to get the money. Thinking fast, Anna grabbed a shovel nearby, pretending she needed it to dig up the cash. The moment the boss dropped his guard, she spun around and struck the henchman beside him. But facing the boss's gun pointed right at her face, Anna felt completely hopeless. Suddenly, an excavator behind them roared to life. Their son was at the controls, driving the heavy machine forward to save his parents. The mob boss tried to jump out of the way, but his foot slipped on the slope, sending him tumbling down. Before he could scramble back up, the boy drove the machine forward, flattening the mob boss into a pancake. The crisis was finally over. The next day, the couple told the sheriff what happened. To wipe out all traces, the sheriff fed the mob boss's remains to his own farm pigs. With all the drug traffickers eliminated, the massive fortune fell straight into the sheriff's pockets, and the truth remained buried forever.